Welcome, everybody, into the Valley. I am Ethan Shutt, joined as always by my brother Ryan, who, if you're watching on YouTube, is nice and clean shaven. He decided to get rid of the hair on his face. I decided to get rid of all the hair on my head. And life decisions are hard sometimes, but some things grow back, and that's fine. And joined by the always baby-faced Philip Russell. If you are joining us on YouTube, the new house is slowly changing. We have one chair in there, which looks very homey, but some new paint on the walls. That is wonderful. Philip, how's the new house in general? I know you have about 1 million projects that you and the wife are taking care of.
Yeah, low key, the wife's taking care of most of them because she's much more handy than I am, but I'm always there for moral and emotional support whenever I am needed. But there are a lot of different areas in the house for me to go watch basketball because we have increased the number of sitting areas. And that leads me to the thought that's been rattling around my brain all day is I'm weirdly very sad and excited for the next couple months because we're entering such an exciting time of year with the playoffs about to start. But what that means is we're not going to have like 15 games in one day like we're about to have this
on my birthday
weekend, or 10 games on a night to choose from, which it's so much fun during the NBA season to just like flick on League Pass and like listen to the Charlotte Hornets announcers freaking out about LaMelo, I don't know, making a layup and talking about desire that he has.
The Charlotte Hornets awesome. Guys are amazing.
They're really good.
They're awesome.
But you're getting in on the WNBA action with us though, right?
Yeah. So
League Pass?
They'll be I already got it. The bag has been secured.
Good.
So now we have a new rivalry. I've retired my Bulls fandom, and now I have the Chicago Sky, who have to take my basketball fandom to the promised land.
I think because we've got the WNBA League Pass. I think I'm just gonna pick a random team. I just think that's so fun. Like
a little eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Do some sort of random team generator, make it a contest maybe. I'm gonna pick a team and I'm gonna go all in. Like merch purchased immediately. Repping very hard.
I like it.
I just think it'd be fun. But
I'm riding with the Mercury, baby. We're staying in Phoenix.
It's a good call when you have 4 all-stars and another
we got the GOAT, baby.
And for the homies out there, we're all rocking with the Mercury to some extent. So over the summer months, we're all going to be watching Mercury games. And part of what we're going to do is keep up with them and report on them because the WNBA is dope. It's like really good basketball to watch.
And I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but I will anyway, unfortunately, because of the internet. This is not a meme. Genuine, good basketball, fun to watch. I personally, when I was in college, got to help do some SID work and help coach with the women's program. In high school, I know Ryan and I went and supported girls basketball here in town, which is great. Good basketball is good basketball. And so if you've not watched any of the WNBA, you should. I don't know if anyone was keeping up with the recent draft. It was great. They did a really good job in terms of production quality, the marketing teams for the various teams, and the players themselves. You can see a big shift happening. We saw it in women's soccer not too long ago when you can kind of ride a World Cup team that is just so incredibly terrific with so many great personalities. I expect to see that as well in basketball. So tangent over. We do have basketball to look forward to after the playoffs, but before we get sad that the NBA is ending soon, let's get excited about what is coming up. Philip already mentioned it, May 16th, my birthday, in case anyone out there was wondering. I think 15 regular season games happening within a 4-hour span, right? It's between noon and 4. It's ridiculous. So a lot's going to shake up. The play-in starts May 18th. And then the playoffs start May 22nd. So starting on May 16th, which is Sunday, again, my birthday, you have an incredible amount of basketball happening in the next week. From every team playing to the play-in part 2, and then the playoffs. Unfortunately, and we still have our part 2 for this episode. If you were kind enough to join us last week, we started the Make or Break series. Part 1 was last week. Part 2 is today, talking about basically what the Suns players individually can do to either make or break the Suns' chances of winning a championship. We covered the starters last week. We're going to cover the reserves, the rotation players, whatever you want to call the bench mob that Phoenix has. But before we get into that, there have been some very unfortunate things within the last week and a half that have transpired that have the current playoff standings looking as such. We have the Jazz at the 1 seed, kind of just chilling. Let's be real. I don't see the Suns making a late push the way the schedules break out. It's tough for both teams, but I just don't see that happening, to be honest with you. So the Jazz are at 1. They're going to play the winner of what I guess I would call play-in game 2. It's a weird system. But anyway, they're going to get the lower seed coming out of the play-in tournament, statistically speaking, which as of right now would be either the Spurs, Grizzlies, or Warriors. If the Lakers win, no matter what, they will be playing the 2 seed, which gets us to the 2 seed, the Phoenix Suns. I don't think it's any fault of the Suns. I definitely think there's been some slipping, a little bit of just offness to the recent games we've been watching. But because of the Lakers, and I mean, injuries is it, right? Like, I don't think it's anything outside of LeBron and AD not playing, really. The Lakers have found themselves in the play-in tournament, which is absurd, and have primed themselves, if things hold true for the next not even week, to be playing against the Phoenix Suns in round 1. And guys, that's upsetting to me because and again, Ryan didn't have the luxury, I guess, of being a Suns fan at the younger years of prominence. I cried as a child watching the Suns lose to the Lakers in the playoffs. This is something that stings still. And boy, oh boy, would I be so incredibly sad if the Suns don't make it to the second round because LeBron and AD decided to take a nice, long, healthy heel up before smacking some teams around.
Here's the thing. Maybe I haven't been around, so I'm not as jaded. But this is a new era in Phoenix, much like proverbial Phoenix that has risen from the ashes and left that which was behind. This is a new era for Phoenix. I'm not worried about it.
That is so cute. No, I love that.
I low-key am terrified. I don't want to play LeBron in the playoffs, but I'm telling myself that I'm fine with it, that, you know, that's just going to make this playoff run that much sweeter, knocking out LeBron and AD in the first round. I'm vibing.
But the other part of it, too, is since I haven't had the Suns to cheer for in the playoffs for the last forever, I don't know the last time I didn't cheer for LeBron in the playoffs, which that makes it even weirder. And don't get me wrong, I will have no problem hoping that if this is the matchup that the Suns wipe the floor and sweep them. But it is going to be real weird when for the last however many years we've seen LeBron just will his way to the NBA Finals. And you're like, oh, crap, my team is the one that's in the way right now. That can't feel good. And Philip, I guess you can speak to that as a Bulls fan. You did get to witness that growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting too. So this isn't Kobe slander. You two personally know my admiration for Kobe Bryant, but you would almost take those old Kobe Bryant led teams with the current construction of Phoenix over a LeBron and AD led team, because the problem with facing the Lakers right now is where the Lakers' strength lies, which is at 3 through 4.5, you would say, kind of 4 and 5 with the way LeBron and AD play. We've talked about it enough on the pod. If the Suns have a major weakness, and they do have a major weakness, it's the backup 5 and the depth they have there. So it's really unfortunate to say that pretty much the worst possible matchup seems to be coming to fruition. And you're going to have LeBron James probably waiting for you in the first round.
And it's just tough. Look, you can go into the psychology all you want of it, but when I hear LeBron interviewing, he's like, yeah, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to be the same. This high ankle sprain, man. I don't know if I'm ever going to be the athlete I once was. What that is called is I'm going to lower the standards that everyone has on me. So when I go 30, 10, and 10 for an entire playoff run and win again, people are like, whoa, and we didn't think he would ever be the athlete he was. Like, come on, man.
One of the joys of watching LeBron, though, is that he no longer has to be the athlete. It's kind of like watching Chris Paul in a sense. Chris Paul isn't as quick, as explosive as he used to be. He can't blow by defenders, but he can still control a game because he understands basketball so well. He knows what he does well, and he makes the right play. LeBron's in a similar boat. He doesn't have to do the iconic reach back dunk over people anymore to have a complete vice grip on the game.
I'm just worried. And I think we had an episode a few weeks back, and I don't think it was the whole episode. I think we kind of closed with it, like, who are your dream playoff scenarios? In the first round, the Lakers were not discussed. I mean, not a chance in the world did I think this was a possibility. The other teams, the Grizzlies, Spurs, and Warriors, we all talked about. And I think we all would say, Grizzlies and Spurs, please. That'd be wonderful. I don't want to play against Steph Curry or LeBron. But the way it's shaking up is, I don't think, I know there's no way that the 9 and 10 make it in. Just the way the one team plays and that loser goes. And hopefully this is, you know how little sense I'm sounding like right now, but statistically the 9 and 10 can't both make it in. So the Suns have no chance of playing either of them, because no matter what, the higher seed will beat them. So you're now saying we're going to be playing the Lakers or Warriors, right? So that's awful. And I'll move past this in a minute, but to have the season that you're having, to do the whole optimistic Ryan thing, rise from the ashes like a phoenix, to be like, yo, guess what? First round of the playoffs, either LeBron or Steph Curry, which, by the way, I'm begging to play Steph Curry. Didn't think I'd ever say that sentence. I don't care if he continues to hit 14 threes a game. Please give me that team, because it feels wrong. It feels wrong that the Lakers will be a 7 seed. And to your point, Philip, their length, they're just built. They're athletes. They're big dudes who can kind of steamroll you. And the thing that they have that we don't is competent backup bigs, so that if one of theirs gets in foul trouble, they just throw out Harrell and be like, oh, what? I'm sorry. Another playoff caliber big.
Here's the thing.
That's tough, man.
LeBron had success with Timofey Mozgov. There is hope, okay? There is hope.
Are you saying that Frank Kaminsky can be our true shining center to lead us to victory?
Yes.
That's
write it down.
Yeah, man. Well, I think, unfortunately, the framework of going up against the Lakers is looking more and more plausible. They're a full game back from the Blazers right now. And don't get me wrong, there are still games to be played. And I guarantee you the Lakers do not want to be in the play-in game. So it's not like this is an unmotivated team that's going to fart around and be like, whatever, we're fine. They don't want to have any risk of not making the actual playoffs. I think they're going to be going all out. I still don't trust the Blazers. So that shift could happen. But, it is what it is at this point. Let's go ahead and move to where we left off last week, and that's talking about the players that we think we're going to see within Monty's rotations in the playoffs, whether it's against the Lakers, the Warriors, the Blazers, whoever. We talked at length last week about the starters, and I think what kind of set in with me after re-listening to that through the editing process is, man, you have a lot of guys who kind of have like this one thing that they have to do well to be successful, right? Like, Chris Paul's lane. I'm guessing we're going to see him do what he's done all year. We know what we need out of Book on both sides. Mikhail defensively has to be locked down. DA has to be locked down. No foul trouble. Jay Crowder's Jay Crowder. You know what you're going to get. Hard-nosed defense, never take a play off. Offensively, high-volume three-point shooter who can make good passes. These are known quantities. Even if some of them haven't played in the playoffs, these are known quantities. And when you get to the bench unit, it gets very interesting to me, because every night it's something new. At least that's how I feel. Like, that a lot of their ceilings, you kind of know what they look like. You know what a campaign great game looks like, but you don't know if that's always what you're going to get. And as you go down this list, I would say aside from Torrey Craig, there's a pretty big gap between each of these players' ceilings and floors, which is why they're not starting right now. And so as we look at and just for those listening, we did not want to talk about 8 players. We didn't think it'd be interesting to talk to you about Jalen Smith's versatility or minutes that don't exist. Same with Tyshawn, whoever. And so we've kind of narrowed this down to Cam Payne, Cam Johnson, so we got the Cam, Dario Saric, Torrey Craig, and Frank Kaminsky. Now, we are not going to be discussing Langston Galloway and Javon Carter, though all of us agreed we would not be shocked to see either of them get some run in the playoffs. Each one, we kind of deemed that would be pretty surprising. Not to say it can't happen, but these 5 are the ones that we think are going to end up leading in minutes. More than likely, Frank's an interesting one, I'll be honest. Seeing how the rotations played the last week or two, it seems like that's the direction Monty's going, but who really knows? But Ryan, I will hand this over to you. I will let you talk about your prized possession here, the thing you love more than anything else. Cam Payne in the playoffs. What do you think he can do to either make or break the Suns?
Yeah, so the 2 things I look at, I think when it comes to making, is he just needs to hold the ship steady. We're not asking him to play like he did in the bubble last year, where he was phenomenal. We're not asking him to shoot 50% from 3 like he did to start the season. But if he can just come in and hold the ship steady, I think he will have done his job well. There can't be a huge step back between CP and Book when they're off the court, and Cam's that next man up in that rotation. So if he could just come in, keep the guys engaged, keep the guys locked in, and be that exciting, explosive player that he is, he'll be just fine. But on the flip side of the coin, I don't want him to come in and lose control, which sometimes we see him get a little overexcited, and that's where his play begins to become sloppy. So if he can just come in and be a steady figure out there on the court, I think he will be the player and fill the role that he needs to be that next guy off the bench.
Philip, what are your thoughts on the whole campaign?
Similar to what Ryan said, you want Cam to be a spark plug. Offense, I know we've mentioned this on the pod before as well. Offense is hard to come by in the playoffs. It's hard to generate offense. The game's going to get more physical, and Cam has to be right around 10 points, I would say. If you can get 10 points, double digits from Cam, that would be great. 47 to 50% shooting-ish, right around there, knock down the majority of his free throws like he normally does. That would be great. I think the breaking point would just be by way of his body. If it is a very physical game and he has trouble generating offense, I could see that becoming a big problem for the second unit. There are times when the second unit can't get down the hill, when they can't get the ball driving and then kicking and rotating quickly, that they wind up with a lot of bad shots. And I think part of that responsibility is going to fall on Cam and his playmaking ability.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued kind of, and we've talked, and I know the national media has too, which I love. The campaign storyline is such an interesting one. And one thing that jumped out to me as I was kind of researching these players, their stats this year, and also what they've done in the playoffs. If you would have told me Cam Payne had played in 11 playoff games, I would have had to be like, oh, man, I guess that's possible. But you have to go all the way back to April of 2016 with the Thunder then. And he played kind of sporadically throughout. You see him got some decent minutes and a couple big blowouts. The most he's ever played in a playoff game was 18 minutes. He shot 1 of 6. The next most was 9 minutes. He went 2 of 7 for 4 points. You can't really, and the reason I brought that up, you cannot hold anything, I don't think personally, of campaigns past before the bubble against him now. He is legitimately a different player and almost a different person in terms of what he can do and how productive he can be. And as much as there were a lot of people doubting his abilities after the bubble, it was very, flash in the pan. Where did he come from? He's playing for a contract. He has done that consistently all season long to where I don't think he's given anyone any reason to doubt him. But I think what Philip said is the make or break for him, and that's talking about his offensive efficiency. What you need out of him I mean, he's like a C minus Lou Will in terms of a 6-man offensively. Like the attitude is there where he can go create, he can blow by you, he can get those weird little scoop layups that I feel like only he gets. And when he's confident, he can knock down the three. We need him scoring somewhere in that 10 to 15 points per game. I don't think that's too much to ask, but you need to have some scorer on this second unit that can go get theirs. And when we're looking at the rest of the group, which is Cam Johnson, Dario, Torrey, and Frank, I don't see any of those dudes saying 10 seconds in the shot clock, I'm going to go get mine. And so Cam has that within himself to be like, either I'm going to facilitate and run this offense or I'm going to go get a bucket. And so if that is taken away from him, even if he is playing his heart out on defense and he does a great job for his size, you're in trouble. And currently the way, like we've said, the way the second unit's constructed, he has a lot of pressure to do his thing. And so I hope it works out. I think there's been a running joke of, hey, let's predict which game campaign decides to take over. There is a old Suns legend of Goran Dragic taking over a game or two in the past where you never saw it coming and he just goes off. Campaign's got that about him where I wouldn't be shocked. But it's tough when offensively you're going to have that much pressure on you. But I also think that you're going to see Paul and Booker staggered. I mean, how many minutes do you guys think are going to be played where one of the two of them aren't on the court together? I mean, if it's within a 10-point game, do you think the two of them are ever going to be on the bench together?
They shouldn't be.
Honestly, though.
They shouldn't be.
And that's where Torrey Craig has scored a lot of his buckets is when both of them are on the bench. Cam has kind of gotten fired up when both of them are gone. When one of them is always on the court, will he still have that mentality to go get his? That is a question for me.
Yeah, the only way that I could see Booker and CP3 being on the bench would be if the guards on the other team are so lacking that a Mikhail campaign Cam Johnson 1, 2, and 3 could slice and dice through that defense. But again, at the risk of throwing it back to our opening conversation, that's not going to be in round one if it's against the Lakers. So you'd have to be facing kind of a sorry defense for a Booker and CP3 less lineup to make any sense.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm hopeful for campaign. I believe in the dude. I think he can do it. And I hope he proves us right. It's weird when we go to our next player off the bench. Usually you would think of another guard. Ours just happens to be like 6'8". The other Cam Johnson, position equals question mark depending on the day. Sometimes he runs around like a 2, doing spot up shooting and not much else. Sometimes he is playing more of the traditional 3, and then sometimes in super weird lineups, he's the second biggest dude out there, and you've got him down low. He has shown a whole lot this season. I think he is continuing to make James Jones look good in terms of the value he has brought this team. His defense has improved as well. Offensively, the one thing you expect him to do is hit threes. That has actually been his weakest point for the last 2 to 3 weeks now. I don't think that's too much time. I mean, it's been pretty rough. Good news is, which sounds weird, the Dion Waiters theory, if you will, the volume is still there. You can tell his confidence is still there, which is great. You need that. You need the Jay Crowder who goes 3 of 9 in the playoffs, but 10th shot, he's like, I'm still shooting because I can make it. So Cam Johnson, what are you guys thinking in terms of make or break it?
I think he's just got to have a green light. He's got to know he's got the green light to shoot. I think Monty trusts him to shoot. And it's going to be all about his confidence and how willing he is to attack the basket, which we have seen flashes of this season. When he's aggressive, his offense just goes to a whole nother level. To me, the defense is still just kind of the question mark. There's some games where he's really locked in, and there's others where he just seems a step too slow or kind of lost in the shuffle. So I would just like to see him stay locked in and engaged on defense to be a really contributing player on both ends of the floor this series. That's the big question mark to me.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Trying to get production on both ends from Cam would be huge. I have this theory that I think Cam Johnson, the best version of Cam Johnson right now, is almost a Mikal light.
Yep.
Where there is real offensive productivity. Cam's is probably a little bit deeper than Mikal's. If you're a Suns fan, you know how good Mikal Bridges is in the mid range and especially close to the basket this year. But there is a real defined role on offense, and then there's the athleticism to be good on the defensive end. Not a Mikal Bridges good, but good and serviceable on the defensive end. And then there have been multiple times the last month and a half or so where we've noticed Cam just getting after it, especially on the boards, where he can just get involved on, especially on defensive boards and then occasionally on the offensive boards, but especially securing those defensive rebounds and then making sure that offensive opponents are one and done on their end. So again, Mikal Light getting a similar role from Cam that you get from Mikal with that first unit would be huge.
Yeah, I think offensively, the thing that's going to make him incredibly valuable is what he can do inside of the 3-point line. We have seen time and time again, it seems like he kind of gets overlooked on the scouting reports of other teams, and what they think he can do is catch and shoot. And when they start biting and he starts taking them off the dribble and cutting baseline, he will surprise you, just like he has surprised Suns fans. So I'm hoping to see that. Defensively, I think is what could break you. And I'm not going to disagree too strong here, Ryan. I think the effort is there a lot of the times. And I think defensively, he actually does a better job keeping his feet and basically keeping his hips square and staying in front of the offensive player better than Mikal does at times. Obviously, Mikal always makes the flashy everything. He gets those reach around steals and the blocks. Cam does a great job staying in front of his guy. What concerns me defensively is when he's matched up on a big underneath, because that is where he can really get abused. And that you can have the best positioning in the world. You're going to get abused by an AD, a LeBron, or whatever, when you height-wise make sense to be in that position, but physically can't. So there's a lot of bigs that can kind of take advantage of that. So we'll have to see. Philip, you mentioned taking advantage of the rebounds, takes us to our next guy, a man among smaller men, Torrey Craig, man. He gets those rebounds like none other. Out of all the players on our bench, he is the one that has the most playoff experience, which is nuts since he didn't even go to the playoffs until 2 years ago. Just happened to be a part of deep runs for both. So has the experience. I don't think offensively there's anything he can do that will hurt you just because you don't expect much out of him. You don't need much. Just be in the right spot. Sometimes he's feeling it from three. Great. If I were a betting man, I would not bet that Torrey Craig has a 18-point take over the game type thing. That's not it. What's going to make it is him giving the other guys who are more offensively minded more chances. And that's just him continuing to be a monster on the offensive glass. And then the thing that's going to break him is if defensively he's not able to perform at an incredibly high level. And that's not to be unfair to him. That's what the expectation is going to demand. When he's coming in and picking up either Mikal's guy or Jay's guy, he will have to perform at such a high level so that our bench unit as a group can't get taken advantage of defensively.
Yeah, and because he's so good at rebounding, I think the best case scenario, the make for him, is that he can plug the gaps at 5. That you can play a lineup that looks like Craig, Crowder, and then the normal 3, Bridges, Booker, CP3, maybe even down the stretch if he's playing well enough. And then I'm with you, Ethan. I don't think he's a guy who can break the Suns, because if all of his shots are off, if he is just broke on the offensive end and he's not getting rebounds, he's just not getting minutes.
Yeah, he's
not getting minutes. You just go back to the rotation that you had before you traded cash considerations. Cash, you were a real one. You just go back to what you've been doing the entire year, and it's water off a duck's back. It's not even a big deal.
Yeah, for Torrey, I just wrote down 2 things. Grab every single rebound and play well, because if he's playing well, that means other guys are getting to rest for valuable minutes later in the game. So if he can just do that, he's going to be set.
That's legit. That's a really good point, Ryan, that I didn't even really think to take into consideration is the longer these guys can be out there, the more time the starters have to rest and not put 40 minutes on Chris Paul and Booker every night and stuff like that. So no, I agree. That's huge. Let's go with the easiest and next one first, because I think this one will be the shortest of the group. Frank the Tank. I don't think there's really anything he can do to make or break the team. I think best case scenario is we don't see him. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I think best case scenario is Ayton stays on the court. When Ayton's not on the court, to your point, Philip, you can play the small ball with Craig or Crowder at the 5, or even Dario at the 5, which that's the biggest question mark right now. So for Frank, when you're out there, play hard. Just love the game of basketball and play real hard. Make us proud.
There was an iconic moment back in 2017. Thunder and Rockets going head to head.
It's like a bad coach. Just play well.
Hey, I mean, I'm not even gonna try, but yeah.
Do you guys remember this game? It was the Can't Play Cantor game.
Yes.
Where Enes Kanter was getting absolutely eviscerated in pick and roll. That's the worst case scenario with Frank, is that he has to be out there playing a big team like the Lakers, where they have to have size on the court. But in having to have size on the court, you play somebody like Frank, who's just going to get absolutely abused. But that in my mind, that's more on DA than it would be on Frank. Like, DA can't be in foul trouble like last night. He's got to be out there on the court.
Yep.
Ethan, I'm like you. I don't think there's anything he can do to make or break the team, but what will make or break him is his own confidence. You can just see it in the nights that he doesn't have the confidence. He doesn't have anything.
Yeah, again, best case scenario is he doesn't need minutes, or he's going in with a 25-point lead. And that's not to say he's not a good player or anything. That is just the way the team is constructed. You really don't want to have to use him. And then we go to our final one, the biggest roller coaster of the season, from I wonder what's going to happen to sixth man of the year, to did he go back to Europe without us knowing, to he's healthy, what's going on? He tricked us into thinking he was back and then said, just kidding, I got you, and let us down again. Dario Saric. I honestly have no idea what to expect at all. And if you've watched any of the last games where he's been involved, there's not been one moment where I'm like, oh, this is what we can expect to come to playoffs. There have been more moments where I said to myself, ooh, I'm kind of scared if he's on the court in the playoffs. And that's concerning to me. I don't know, man. I don't. This is I could go spend hours watching Dario game tape and reading every article. But at the end of the day, my eye test tells me I'm concerned defensively, more of a liability than I've ever seen out of him. And that will break you. Let's get that one out of the way. And obviously what you wanted from him in what should make the category is in the bench mob, in the bench rotation, he should be the one facilitating. He's the one at his best, who's the best at it. But it just something seems off, man. And I don't know what it is, but I'm nervous for Dario minutes. And he could have a huge game. He could go 15-9 and just be like, wow, we got everything we need out of him, probably with 5 assists, which make it even look better. But that's really it from me. What do you guys think about Dario? Philip, I'll kind of go with you first.
Yeah, there's not much. The last month or so just hasn't looked good for Dario in the playoffs. I don't know what he's shown recently that says he's going to thrive in any way, shape, or form in playoff basketball, where everything becomes more one-on-one or pick and roll, and then you individually have to make a play. When the game becomes like that, I don't know what Dario's role is going to be. And if I had to bet, is Dario going to contribute more to the Suns making or breaking? My money, not to be too much of a downer, would be breaking, that he just can't fill those minutes at the 5.
Mine is too. I lean that way myself, but I think his first 3 minutes of any playing time is going to be the telltale sign. Pretty much anytime he plays, within the first 3 minutes, he will either get involved in the pick and roll offense and get engaged, or he will get absolutely bullied down low. he will look weak, and then he'll play with his head down, looking sad. And if that's what we get out of Dario, then it's going to be a long postseason for the big fella.
And honestly, I think I wouldn't be shocked if Monty is feeling similar to how Suns fans are, and I think you can tell that just by the minutes. I mean, he was getting close to 20, if not just a hair under in the 18 range, pretty consistently when he was at his best. Last few games, 13 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 12 minutes, 14. And then the one that just kind of jumps out is 22 against the Jazz, where you win by 21. But I mean, it's weird, man. It's just a question mark. There's no consistency, and you don't know what to expect. So wow, what a downer note to end an episode. So I'd like to apologize to those that made it this far. Next week is going to be a big episode. Be prepared for some emergency pods in the next few weeks. A lot's going to be happening. If you're listening, feel free to like and all that fun stuff. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube as well. Philip, what you got before we close it out?
2 things. Root against the Blazers and root for the Lakers this week. That is your task, Suns fans.
I've got one more task to not end on a downer. Most
Drink
seasons, we do not have more basketball waiting on us. We are in a season that has more basketball waiting on us in the playoffs. Whatever happens, enjoy it. It's going to be fun.
Good stuff, Ryan. With Philip and Ryan, I'm Ethan Shutt. As always, this is Into the Valley Phoenix Suns podcast.
And we out.